Religion is a conceited effort to deny the most obvious realities. These are the words of H.L. Mencken. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. Once upon a time, active evangelical religious nuts here in the United States were the ones that demanded that we deny the evidence of our own eyes, deny the most obvious realities. But in light of current affairs, what has pop culture and media propaganda become, if not, in fact, a religion? It's got all the trappings of a religion. Anyone who disputes the official narrative is a heretic. Anyone who rolls with the narrative and then parts from it later is treated as an apostate, complete with threats of beheading and whatnot. In the absence of actual religion, pop culture and the mainstream narrative have become a religion unto itself. And it is, in fact, a conceited effort to deny the most obvious realities. They demand that we deny the most obvious realities. Just this week, they insisted that somehow, even though we'd examined everything from turtles to foxbats to pangolins, that it was in fact these cute little creatures, raccoon dogs, that were responsible for the Wuhan coronavirus and not in fact, well, the Wuhan novel coronavirus lab. Sometimes it works on two levels. You want to, as Mencken was saying, a conceited effort to deny the most obvious realities, but sometimes the realities aren't so obvious. People who looked at this would have thought, as a knee-jerk reaction, that the obvious reality was that it was a bloody and violent insurrection. We didn't even know at the time that a lot of the leading figures in said insurrection had actually been welcomed into the Capitol building and escorted around. And then again, those of us in the know would have taken a look at this and noticed a distinct absence of, well, say, firearms. 250,000 people estimated on the ground. Imagine what 250,000 people with pitchforks could have done if it was, in fact, a bloody, violent insurrection. Again, sometimes the most obvious realities are not so obvious. They continue to ask that we deny that we are in economic trouble. All of the bank collapses that happened this weekend, they continue to insist that we are in the brightest economic prospects that we've seen in years. It certainly isn't like the days of Orange Man. They expect that we deny the obvious realities when they insist that this man is in fact leading a democracy. And sometimes it really does become all too obvious. You take a look at this and the propaganda photo does exactly what it's supposed to do. Oh, Zelensky is downtrodden leader of a nation, so bold and courageous, until you pan back a little bit and realize that the entire thing is stage managed. We're asked to ignore the obvious realities that were covered before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that, well, Ukraine has a bit of a stiff-arm salute problem. We're asked to deny that there were biolabs in Ukraine, and it turns out that denial was based on there are no U.S. biolabs in Ukraine. No, in fact, they are Ukrainian biolabs that are financed by concerns here in the United States, but technically not U.S. biolabs. This is the fact-checking facet of denying what are obvious realities. They ask us to deny the obvious realities of one of the most profound environmental disasters of recent memory, because, after all, this couldn't be happening on the watch of such a bold and brave leader like Joe Biden. And coming up now on the 30th anniversary of this disaster, they're going to ask us to deny the obvious reality that the federal government will stop at nothing in its war against its political opponents in the name of saving us from right-wing extremism. Yeah, they're always out to save us from the virus, to save us from independent thinking, to save us from ourselves. I'll take you back to Mencken. He had a little word for that. The urge to save humanity is almost always a false front for the urge to rule. Well, you already know where we're going with this. It's the inevitable, because who knows better the science of making people deny obvious realities than our good friend Mr. Blair. From 1984, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. And if all others accepted the lie, this is the crux, if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became truth. We stand at a crucial intersection of that history, and it has never been more important that we do not accept the lie that the party imposes, and to make sure that the records don't all tell the same tale, that we continue to speak the truth, even as lie becomes treated as virtue. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to choke you with a big fat dose of throbbing, turgid, thorny, painful truth cock. Open wide, motherfuckers. Welcome back. Time once again for the Sunday sermon. I left out oozing this week. I expect to receive some accolades from some of you with delicate sensibilities. You know, all three of you. Everybody in for the drum roll. We are here on the command center level of the Bart Bunker in Spokane, Washington. Welcome one and all. Going to be doing a quick roll call here in just a second. Let me go ahead and fade that bumper music down just a shade. My hearing is a little shaky today. Got to spend some trigger time with the new rifle yesterday. Got to spend a day running big bores even with the ear protection. I'm a little, still a little tinnitus going on. So my volume levels are a little off today. Please be patient and forgiving and all that good stuff. We come out of the starting gate as we always do with our bumper music. The name of the band is Red Desert, from the smoldering embers and ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. We'll see how it turns out this week. Real quick roll call to see who's on board. The original Sinner Sister herself, Miss Emmy. Brother Joel Allen Jackson from up there in the Midwest, just outside of the toxic cloud kill zone. We got David McConnell on board. What's up, brother? Roman. Hey, good to see you, man. And I'm sure Carrie is on board as well. Good to see you, Mr. Roman. Bill Wade. Appreciate the support, brother. Thank you. Thank you for being on board and for all the help and love that you've thrown into the program. And thank you for that. Brother James Pearson, my LEO and Spear System brethren, good to have you on board. Give a big hug to that sweet wife of yours, my good friend. Glad you made it out, man. I'm sure we got some more of the usual suspects going to be trailing on as the program continues. Got a lot of stuff to get into. Not going to belabor the point. A lot of good stuff going on. I hope Stone makes it, man. I'm looking forward to the announcement. You guys, if you follow Stone, you know he's a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of the program, and he's gotten off, jumped into the archery pool with both feet, and largely at his urgings. I picked up a compound bow this week, and my new Odyssey is laid out before me. So life is going to be good, man. A little sip of that liquid enthusiasm. We'll go ahead and get rolling. Yeah, I picked up an Infinite Edge. Compound bow. Just a good starter bow. Nothing spectacular. I'm not at that Rogan level yet. You know, I may get there in the due course of time. But right now, I just want to get something where I can, dip my toe in the pond, build a little bit of skills. And then, of course, yesterday, me and brother Mikey Shaw, if you guys saw any of the posts on my personal page, I can't reveal his name. Gentleman wishes to remain anonymous, but he is, I have known this man since he was literally in a car seat. But he built me a spectacular rifle. You guys know my choice in battle rifles. I'm all about the big 308s. I run a foul for my battle rifle, and man, my bro back in Texas did an incredible job on this piece of equipment. It's got all the bells and whistles, including a couple of things that I've never really been big on and never thought I would really have an appreciation for. But I got to play with some of these toys yesterday, just putting the rifle through its paces, and I gotta say, man, I'm really fucking impressed. Prototype muzzle brake that completely eliminates flash, completely eliminates climb, and if you're running a big 308, pretty important stuff. So anyway, we got to get out yesterday, play around a little bit, send some rounds down range, and good 30 cal therapy is always good for the soul. You know what I mean? Just knowing that you still got the skills, and of course, we ran through all the platforms, spent some time running the new rifle, and then of course dug back to the old Peter Wasser Kalashnikov platform, which again, that's just like riding a fucking bike, man. Get back to the AK platform, and it's just reach out and just ringing steel all over the place, different ranges, the whole bit. It's not a bad starter bow, nothing like skill with reusable ammo. True story, man. True story. Brother, yeah, we still need to talk about air guns. I hear you, brother. I do. And you know what, Joel? Air guns aren't even a tough sell for me. It's not like I'm actively resisting the idea of it. It's just it's something that I haven't really. I can't even say that I haven't been able to prioritize it. I just haven't made it a priority. So you're probably right to check me on that. But definitely, when it gets into the small game aspect of it, again, right now I have a single 22 LR in my arsenal, and arsenal. I'm sorry, by Texas standards, that's not that's not an arsenal. That's a well-stocked gun safe. But I only have a single 22 LR. I've got plenty of ammo for it, like probably, I don't know, 5, maybe 8,000 rounds of ammo for that little 22 LR. But having the option for a small game, and I know you guys that don't know, Brother Joel, he is, I'm not telling tales out of school here. Brother Joel is a convicted felon. He is not allowed by law to own regular, rimfire or centerfire firearms, but he has made an art and a science out of fucking air guns over the years. He harvests his own game, including squirrel, rabbit, some winged creatures of the avian variety. He harvests his own game with it, prepares his own fucking meat. That's a good skill to have, man, particularly because, Joel is living in primarily an urban environment, and that presents an entire different set of logistics for you guys that are into prepping and how bad it could get in specific scenarios. I mean, imagine having that air gun and being able to harvest squirrels to keep oneself fed. It's quick, it's quiet, right? There's no report. There's nothing that's going to draw law enforcement attention. There's nothing that's going to draw your neighbor's attention, this kind of thing, and you're still able to put fucking food on the table. I mean, there's a lot there, Joel. So yeah, we definitely will have that conversation. And apologies for me, taking so long. Again, it's not reluctance. It's not active pushback. I have not taken the time to make it a priority. And now that we're into crunch time, if I'm going to be picking up all these other skill sets and I'm going to be picking up the archery skill set, then I think it stands to reason that air guns should be high on that list. Let me get the sponsor shout outs out of the way real quick. We'll jump into it. Man, we got good stuff, man. Really loaded show for you today. My bullet points are just like lined across the top of the fucking production screen here. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do everything justice that I want to get into today, because there's a lot going on. And we're gonna keep it upbeat. No black pills. The world can be going to hell in a collective handbasket, but Ragnar Redbeard, baby. Laughing let us perish, amid laughter let us face our doom. Ha ha, motherfuckers. Quick sponsor shout outs, of course. First and foremost, brother Roman. And his lovely wife Carrie, and Allie and Roxy, and a bevy of beautiful women over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Brother Roman has always been a creative sort. He is a ridiculously talented musician, and he's gotten off into the watercolor thing and the art thing, and he's doing some fantastic work there. And of course, punctuated with testosterone-driven commentary. So there's a lot to like about that. Brother Steve, glad you made it. So yeah, so definitely go check him out at opiumtales.com. He is also back on Twitter. One day when we finally get to tell you who the man is and what his background is, that's all going to be as hilarious to you as it is to me right now. But he is back on Twitter, so check him out, Brother Roman with opiumtales.com. And of course, Casey and Dusty Tellison, my Viking brothers over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the inland northwest. Currently, they're doing a whole lot of catering stuff around here, but I am assured that as we get into warmer weather, which you notice, not wearing the frog gear today. I'm actually back in a t-shirt, so it's warm enough even down here on the second level that we can get by with short sleeves. So as we get into warmer weather here, the Viking Longship will be back out. That's their big smoker trailer, and they're going to be setting up shop. So all of my guys in the Spokane region, go check them out. I'll keep you posted. Go check them out on social media so you know what their schedule is. Casey and Dusty Tellison, Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the inland northwest. Yeah, but what about shut the fuck up? You're wrong. Sit down. Okay, cool. Now, that's don't ever contradict me on my sponsors, motherfucker. Don't do it. Anyway, who are you arguing with? Shut up, Kevin. You know, voices in my head. Let it go, man. Just fucking let it go. Brother Ryan is tied up and will be catching the replay. So he's not among the roll call over here, but we are still, as always, going to open the program with our most popular segment, Ryan's Rabbit Hole. Dum dum dum. I gotta get my soundboard back, so there's some big dramatic music to go with that. You guys know how close I am to Ryan, and you guys know that one of the first things that we bonded over is the fact that we are both repositories of useless information. So every week, we do the Ryan's Rabbit Hole segment. We take it a little off the beaten path. Sometimes it dovetails with what we're talking about the rest of the program. Sometimes not so much. But even when it's not, it's a little something to take you outside of your comfort zone. A particular facet of history that you might not have been familiar with. A historical figure that you might not have been familiar with. A scientific theory that you might not have been previously exposed to. This kind of stuff. Just a little something to take you off that beaten path. We open up the rabbit hole and you decide how far you want to follow that rabbit hole down to see where we're going. Some weeks we go historical, some weeks we go philosophical, some weeks we go esoteric, and that's when he really makes me work for it. Sometimes it's just straight conspiracy theory. This week is going to be a twofer, right? But it's united by a single theme, and the theme of the week for the rabbit hole is going to be bad bitches. That's right, boys and girls, bad bitches. That is the theme. Here's a little thing about my people and my bloodline. And when I am referring to bloodline, I am talking about people who are of Anglo-Saxon or Northern European or Scandinavian descent, us, deplorable pale faces with our light-ass skin and our lack of melanin. We are known for a lot of things. Historically, they've got it really twisted up with regard to what we have brought to the world, but that is a subject for another day. What I want to discuss, what we're going into on the rabbit hole today, is a couple of specific members, historical figures within that bloodline that basically made very, very powerful statements to let the world know that there are limits with regard to how far we are willing to be pushed, that we are a patient people, that we will take and we will take and we will take, but when you have crossed the line, you will fucking know it. And I can promise you a day of reckoning that you will not live long enough to never forget. Two bad bitches that we're going to go into here. The first that we are going into, the first one is going to be Olga of Kiev, Queen Olga of Kiev, Saint Olga of Kiev, because she has been canonized in the Eastern Orthodox Church. she basically was sainted by the Orthodox Church for an act of what, by any measure, would be considered genocide. Holy fuck, genocide is always a bad thing, isn't it? Not necessarily. Not fucking necessarily. Genocide as a defensive response could be taken not only as not an historical atrocity, but the avoidance of it could be taken as a disservice, right? What did Brother Malcolm have to say on the other end of the spectrum? What did Brother Malcolm have to say about that, right? That violence, excess and violence in defense of your race and your people, that is not, that's not atrocity, that's common sense. Olga married Prince Igor right around 900 AD, and Igor went to meet with the Slavs. Now, if you guys are familiar, first of all, since we're going down this historical rabbit hole, the word slave actually comes from the word Slav. Why is that? Because, oh, wait, it was white Slavs that were first known for being sold into servitude, forced servitude. Unpleasant for the historical orthodoxy, but there it is. In any case, he was demanding more tribute, and the Slavs didn't want to give it to him. So, they killed him. They killed him. His queen, Olga of Kiev, did not take this too fucking well. The Slavs actually sent potential suitors to take the place of Prince Igor. She didn't take too kindly to that. The first set that was sent her way, she had them buried alive. Buried alive in a fucking ditch. Not a good way to go out when you think about it. The Slavic tribe who had refused to pay her tribute, that wasn't enough. First set she buried alive, but she laid siege to their capital city the following year, and they begged and they pleaded and they offered all sorts of tribute. But hey, too late, motherfucker, because you have crossed the line. They sent another set of suitors. She had them burned alive, feet first. Living, breathing, set, covered in fuel, tar, pitch, whatever was available, and set on fire. Feet first. They sent her. Now this is the beauty of it. So they sent her sparrows. 3 were sent from every household in that particular province. 3 sparrows. She had her men attach rags with sulfur to the legs of these sparrows and sent them home, setting fire to everything in the province. She laid waste to an entire tribe of Slavs, extinguished damn near every man, woman, and child, all because her king had gone to ask for what was tribute, and instead of just saying no or trying to offer a negotiation, they killed him. Kind of a big slight, historically. Some people would think that maybe it was a bit much. But that brings us to bad bitch number 2. Now, Olga of Kiev, and it's spelled exactly like it sounds. You guys can follow that, like you can follow that rabbit hole as far as you need to go. But bad bitch number 2, Boudica, or Boadicea, depending on how pretentious you want to be with it. Boudic in the original Gaelic. Right now, there's at least one Gaelic scholar out there that's, dude, you're pronouncing it wrong. Okay, get with me later. Here is the point. She was a leader. She was a queen that led the Celts. And keep in mind, the theme here is bad bitches. I will spell this for you so you can look it up. Boudica. Boudica, Boadicea. There are a number of different spellings and pronunciations, all of which are acceptable for the purpose of the fucking story. She had 2 daughters with her king. And if you guys are familiar with the works of Tacitus, Tacitus is probably the most famous of the Roman historians, and the way that he records it, well, this was not a woman to have been fucked with. The Romans were in control of what is now modern England at the time, and they basically flogged Boudica, flogged her publicly. And a Roman flogging, I should point out, this is not, ooh, spank me daddy kind of flogging. If you guys are familiar, well, if you guys are Christians, if you guys are practicing Christians, you understand the flogging of Christ, generally done with a cat of nine tails. This is a whip with many lashes, sometimes with bones and spikes tied into the ends. They flayed a large amount of skin from the woman's body and then raped her two daughters in front of her. Now, ordinarily, by Roman standards, because people cowered before the Romans, because at the time they were the most powerful empire, most powerful military machine on the planet, that would have been the end of it, and she would have been an historical footnote. Boudica wasn't having it. She struck out. Now, I'm gonna put this in perspective for you. She struck out against the Roman settlements in her region with a fury that the Romans, who were no strangers to violence and conquering and bloodshed, could scarcely fucking comprehend. She burned her and her men burned everything. They left a layer of cinders a meter thick. Let me just give you some perspective here. I live in the Pacific Northwest. We are within the ash fallout zone from Mount St. Helens. To this day, you go anywhere around here, right, with a shovel, anywhere in this area, and you start digging, several feet down, you will get to a layer of ash about this thick. If it's ground that hasn't been previously disturbed, obviously. You just go out in the woods somewhere and just start digging down. There's a layer of ash about this thick, just like a couple of feet down. That was a volcano that did that. The layer of ash, let me say again, that was left by Boudica's vengeance was a meter thick. Scorched fucking earth. Tacitus' best estimate, and keep in mind, it's dodgy because it's been a long time and the records aren't, and nothing actually translates. But Tacitus' best estimate was that Boudica was responsible for the death of anywhere from 70,000 to 100,000 civilians. Ponder that for a minute. You killed my husband, you raped my daughters in front of me, and you flogged me, and you thought that that was going to be the fucking end of it. It wasn't the end. And she wasn't done. This continued on and on and on, and every Roman settlement that her and her men came in contact with was burned to cinders. People had their entrails drug out of them alive. That is an unholy fucking vengeance. Now, of course, the inevitable result, because it's still the Roman fucking Empire, was that her rebellion, as it was called at the time, was put down. It was put down hard. She was killed. Everyone that worked with her was killed. But she went out without a bit of fucking shame or defeat in her heart. And she ensured, by the way that she went out and with the vengeance that she had exacted, that her name would be spoken, as it is right now as I speak, for millennia afterwards. As an historical example, that there is such a thing as vengeance for people that you push too far, particularly people of that bloodline. And we do not care what kind of power you are holding. We don't care what you have demonstrated that you are willing to do in defiance of our defiance to put down that rebellion. And we don't care if eventually it results in the end of our lives. You will, by God, know that you have been in a fucking fight, and the survivors will talk about what happened here for 1,000 fucking years. And those are our women. Our blood and our people may have been emasculated, have successfully, largely been emasculated. This is what our women are capable of. When my people find their soul and draw that line and say enough, you won't live long enough to rue the day that you were born. Again, I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version here. That's why it's the rabbit hole. Boudica, right? And Saint Olga of Kiev. Saint Olga of Kiev. And we're not going to speak to, we're not going to speak to the sniveling little differences of, we're not even going to get into that. That's a separate issue altogether. Saint Olga of Kiev and Boudica, Boudicea, Boduk, the original Gaelic, bad bitches. That is the theme of the rabbit hole. So hopefully you guys will be kind enough to follow that rabbit hole down as far as you are willing to take it. Learn a few things. And never use the word "you fight like a girl" again in the same fucking context. That is the rabbit hole for the week. Bad bitches. Saint Olga of Kiev and Boadicea. Check it out. Follow that rabbit hole down as far as you are willing to go, boys and girls. Let me get back up here to the bullet points. Plenty going on in the world, man. Plenty going on in the fucking world. Let me bounce back over here. Scourging, right? Thank you. Ah, look at that. Damon and Kim checking in. Glad y'all made it. Glad y'all made it, man. I'm really glad y'all are here. And Damon, I know Kim was listening to the Bad Bitches chapter and just kind of sitting there with his arms folded like, oh, that's right, motherfucker. That's right. I'll show you some bad bitches. Glad you guys made it in. So we got a lot to cover this week. We got the bullet points all fucking lined out. Here are the things dovetailing nicely off of what we just talked about. There is only a certain level to which, and I'm not saying this just with regard to my blood, but with good people across the board, there is a certain limit to how far they can be pushed before they push back. When we are in a culture that basically is celebrating what, by any standard of measure, is outright fucking insanity. What did Orwell have to say? That freedom means the ability to say 2 + 2 = 4. That whole scene between him and O'Brien at the Ministry of Truth, right? 2 + 2 = 4. And literally, yeah, thank you, brother. Hell hath no fury, something. Yep, got it. We are literally at a point where saying 2 + 2 = 4 will have people demanding, and this is the thing with all of those things. They are demanding not because they believe it, right? People do not believe. Listen, I don't care with regard to the advocates that they can say all day long that they believe that a person can declare themselves female if they are biologically male and it magically fucking happens. They don't believe it. They don't believe that. Even the ones who are standing and advocating it, they do not in their heart of hearts believe it. But it is important for them to be able to make you say it, because the importance is not in the truth. The importance is in the control. We will sit and act as if certain ethnicities are not more inclined statistically to violent criminality. Is that a statement of hate? Is that a statement of fact? I can prove what the fuck I'm saying. I have the numbers to back me up. But it's very important that we are not allowed to say that, because that gives up the control mechanism and all the things that they're pushed for. Why are they pushing for these things? What would they be pushing for? Who fucking knows, man? You know, your speculation is as good as mine. But at the end of the day, you can only push people so far before they finally go, okay, you know what? Fuck this. This is stupid. The grown-ups are back in charge now. And the one that has tripped my ire for a long time is equity-based justice and equity-based sentencing. For you guys, particularly Damon and Kim, you're down in Houston. You know about District Attorney Kim Ogg and a lot of other Soros-based district attorneys. Brother James, I know I'm not telling you anything that you're unfamiliar with. In the name of equity, not equality, equity, right? We have had to retool the entire legal system when we cannot retool the law itself because the voters would never go for it. We bypass what the people would actually want, and we put in district attorneys, and therefore we control how the law is enforced. Easy enough, right? I don't care where your heart is. I don't care. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a results-driven person. Okay? I am concerned with the outcome. And when you look at the outcome, particularly in Houston, we had a guy who was already out on personal recognizance bonds, PR bonds. That means you didn't have to post any money. He was out on PR bonds for 2 violent felonies, and while out on those PR bonds for 2 violent felonies, discharged a firearm at a law enforcement officer. He took a shot at a cop. They took him back into custody, where the district attorney set his bail at $5,000. Out on 2 felonies, PR bonds, takes a shot at a cop. They set his bond at $5,000. And you know what? That's not even enough. We are at a level of lunacy where even that is inexcusable. Cash bail, we are told, must be abolished. Now, guys, straight away, man, I really don't have a whole lot of patience for this. Fuck you, you're a goddamn idiot. I don't care what background you come from. I care what the fuck you did. You take a shot at a cop, you don't get out of jail. You commit violent felonies, you don't get out of jail. If you do, we set your bond excessively high because we don't want you out circulating among the humans. You're a dog walking upright and need to be treated as such. Good God, that's insensitive. Yeah, but that's where we are now, boys and girls. Now, did you hear me say anything about the complexion of the felon in question? No, that's something that you're projecting, my friend. Your lily white ass takes a shot at a cop, you don't get bond. Your lily white ass commits a violent felony, your bond is set prohibitively high because you don't get to circulate among regular people. You're a dog walking upright and must be treated as such. What you guys keep failing to take into account, not you guys, what a lot of people fail to take into account. I live in an area that is, I'm going to say, right. I'm going to take a rough estimate. Somebody feel free to, in fact, you know what? I'm going to fact check myself on this. Spokane. Here we go. Spokane County is far less diverse than either the state or the nation. 88.9% of the county was white, compared to 78.5% of the state and 76% of the nation. 9 out of every 10 people here in Spokane County are white. Do you hear me cutting slack to the tweaker maggots just because we share a complexion? Did that word escape my mouth? Did you hear that equity-based sentencing is wrong except when white people get a break? Yeah, I know that defeats the whole purpose of equity-based sentencing because bad whitey and we do nothing but oppress people, yada, 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 whatever. At the end of the day, everybody knows that this is bullshit. Everybody knows what the inevitable result is going to be. Everybody knows what the FBI crime statistics clearly fucking states. And even if we didn't know the statistics, we have the evidence of our own eyes and ears. We're going to get into pattern recognition a little bit later and how this all shapes into and dovetails nicely into what we talked about in the opening. What was the number one thing? Religion is a conceited effort to deny the most obvious realities. The most obvious reality is 13% of the United States population is committing better than 50% of its crimes. That's an obvious reality, not from observation, but it's statistically fucking backed up. So the very specific 13% of the population that is committing better than 50% of the violent crimes, including 80% of the homicides, most of which are committed against members of their own ethnicity, those are the people who are singled out to be freed under no cash bond and equity-based sentencing. Basically, we are looking at, yes, we know you are committing the vast majority of the crimes, but you very specifically will be let go without bail. As if that were going to be a disincentive for you to go out and do more of the fucking same. Do you understand how stupid this is on its face? And you can call me whatever, whatever is going to make you feel better about it. Knock yourself out. I've been called worse by better people. It's not going to bother me anymore. But here's the point that I'm getting back to. Good people, regular people, let's say grazers even, that are coming from a good place. Their heart is in the right place. And they want what is best for the world, and they want everyone to be, we're all the same deep down inside. It's demonstrably false, but I want to continue to believe it, and we want everyone to have equal outcomes, and everything should be fair in the world, and I just want everybody to be happy. Cool. They want to signal their virtue. They want to signal that they are good people. And in this day and age, the way to signal that you are a good person is that you are all about equity, particularly if you're white. You need to be more about equity because we're responsible for all the bad things in the world. Don't you know? So they want to signal. They want to signal that that's what they believe. And so they will get in behind these ridiculous bail reform proposals. They will get in behind these absurd fucking laws that you can patently look on their face and you know how it's going to turn out. Case in point, and I have two of them that I want to get into. And in fact, a federal court put a hold on this one. It was supposed to go into effect on January the 1st of this year, and it was out of Illinois, and it was called the Safety Act, Safe-T. Now, this is basically how it works. The act would get rid of the cash bail system in its entirety. What? Yes, we're getting rid of cash bail completely. As in, you were taken in for an offense. They had a very specific category for what were considered non-detainable offenses. Okay? The only detainable offenses were things like first-degree murder, aggravated rape, that sort of thing, because, even the social justice warriors couldn't justify that. Give them time. Under the Safety Act, and I'm reading this verbatim, okay? Non-detainable offenses, as in offenses that did not automatically require cash bail. As in, somebody does any of these things, and you can look this up. I demand that you fucking fact check my shit. You can look any of this up. There is no requirement that any of the following would require you to post any kind of cash bail. You ready for this? Second-degree murder. Look it up. Look it up. I'll wait, motherfucker. I'm going to keep reading while you're looking this up. Safety Act, Illinois. It's currently on hold because, again, a federal judge finally stepped in, put his foot down, and went, this is insane. Second-degree murder. No mandatory bail. Arson. Drug-induced homicide. I'm on a shitload of tweak. I fucking stab you. There's nothing in the law requiring that I have any fucking cash bail. Particularly if I'm a member of a historically oppressed class. Kidnapping, aggravated battery, burglary, intimidation, aggravated driving under the influence. I get shit-faced drunk or fucking high on tweak and I plow through a fucking family and there's no fatalities. Or even, technically, because that would be second-degree murder, but let's just say there's no fatalities for the sake of argument. Aggravated DUI, fleeing and eluding, and threatening a public official. They would all be non-detainable offenses. In other words, we take you down to the jail, we process you, and there's nothing saying that we can hold you here. You don't have to post bond. You are released on your own recognizance. Thanks for coming out. Promise you're going to show up for your court date. This is Illinois. Again, a federal judge put that on hold, and several state judges also fucking put it on hold. But it was supposed to go into effect January the 1st of 2023. Currently, in Washington, D.C., they're supposed to vote Wednesday. The GOP is going to overturn, in all likelihood, the GOP, and with a ton of fucking Democratic support, is going to overturn a crime law in Washington, D.C. Now, keep in mind, District of Columbia is in that weird sort of jurisdiction. It's not exactly a state. It's sort of a province in and of itself as a legal, as a matter of legality, whether it falls under the legal purview of the Congress or the state, or it's in a weird legal gray area. But within the District of Columbia, within Washington D.C., our capital city, this is the law that passed. The D.C. City Council last year unanimously approved an overhaul of the city's criminal code. Among the changes, the bill would eliminate nearly all mandatory minimum sentences. Okay, that's something you can argue. But reduce the maximum penalties for some crimes, including robberies and carjackings. Mayor Muriel Bowser said, okay, and this is the D.C. mayor, by the way, a Democrat that said this, I believe it's more important to get this opportunity right than to add policies and weaken penalties into what should be a bill that makes D.C. safer. This is a hardcore leftist fucking mayor saying you're going too fucking far. But the D.C. Council, wow, who votes for the D.C. Council? People that live in D.C. What is D.C.? Overwhelmingly, ethnically speaking, right? And they vote for their folks who get into office and pass these fucking laws. This is the way the democratic process works, boys and girls. It's the way it works. Why do you think all of the major cities in the United States are controlled by Democrats and have been for the past 20 years? Why do you think they are irredeemable shitholes because these policies are bad. They end like this, inevitably. This is not open for debate. Yeah, but shut the fuck up. You're wrong. We can see it happening now in real time. You don't get to do, you've gotten to do this, you've gotten to have that out for the past 20 or 30 years. Well, maybe we didn't throw enough money at the problem. Maybe we need more criminal justice reform. Maybe we need to go into these poor communities and just do more outreach, job programs. Blah, 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 blah. You've had it for 30 fucking years. We're getting to see the results in real fucking time, boys and girls. It's irrefutable. Sit down, shut up, you're wrong. Simple as that. But here's the beauty of it. Even the Biden regime, are you ready for this? Said that he would not veto if the GOP and the Democrats, by the way, who are working together on this, they took a look at this law, basically eliminated cash bail, eliminated maximum penalties for first-degree murder. Look that up. Karine Jean-Pierre, that fucking diversity hire, she couldn't even say it with a straight face. They eliminated mandatory maximum sentences for first-degree murder. That's about as egregious as it gets. But guess what, boys and girls? Federal judges put a hold on that law in Illinois. Come a day. Biden said that if this bill goes through, rescinding this idiocy of a DC crime law, that he won't veto it. I'm almost inclined to give this cadaver credit. If I thought he knew, if he was sentient and aware of what he was doing, I'd be inclined to pat the old man on the back. Enough is enough. And this is why I say no black pills. We're not going to get upset about this. We get outraged. We get outraged that such a thing even sees the light of day. We can and should be outraged by that. It's idiocy on its fucking face. I don't care how you sell it to me. I don't care about it. Literally, look at me. Look at me. I said what I fucking said. I don't care about your fucking historical oppression. You shoot at a cop. I don't care what got you there. You shot at a cop. You beat a woman within an inch of her life. You rape her in front of her kids. I don't care about your people's history and lineage or the 400 years of the Middle Passage. I give two flying fucks about that. You raped a woman in front of her kids. This isn't difficult, nor is it hateful, racist, bigoted, slighted, white privilege. Just a simple statement of fact. If that troubles you, you're in the wrong place, leave. Doorknob, ass, do the math. We can and should get outraged that such a thing saw the light of day, but here's why we're going to be happy. Because in this day and age, not even the Biden regime and his handlers that are actually making the call are going to let that law fucking stand in Washington, D.C. Even in a deep blue state like Illinois and the bluest of cities in Chicago, it's not going to fucking fly because good people have had enough. How do you wind up, Bongino made a good point about this, how do you wind up with a mayor like Giuliani in New York City? That's his deep blue, that New York, deep blue state, New York City, the bluest of the deep blue cities. So how did you wind up with a guy like Rudy Giuliani getting 2 fucking terms? Because finally, even the fence sitters, even the people, God help them, they're misguided, they're Pollyannas to a fucking fault, but they are coming from the right place. Their heart is coming from a place of goodness and wanting to make the world a better place. And they finally had to say, look, I can parrot this all day, that we're all the same and we need to work towards equality and equity and all these fucking things. But at the end of the day, when you're seeing people get raped on your fucking stoop, when everybody knows somebody that got shot or stabbed or robbed or mugged or raped or has a mother that was murdered, and the people that did it are walking free on fucking PR bonds? Talk the talk. Talk the talk. By all means, talk the talk. But you don't mean it. You don't mean it. I understand why you continue to say that you believe these things. It's not about convincing other people that your heart is in the right place. It's about your fear. Liberals, I'm talking to you right now. Leftists, you're too far gone. Nothing to say to you. And I'm talking to liberals right here. Those people who are genuinely coming from a good place. It is not about your fear that you are going to be perceived by someone else as not being a good person. It is your fear of being able to confront that everything you thought, every preconceived notion that you had, is demonstrably wrong. That's okay. It's okay. I had a similar situation myself. I was raised in hardcore, Jesus junkie, steeped in the scriptures, hellfire and damnation, all that. And I broke with that. And then I went polar opposite direction. I went hard left for a long, long time. And I broke with that. Because at some point, I had background on one side with the stiff arm salute crowd, and I had to fucking look and go, okay, this is a cult. I went the other direction. I finally had to go, okay, this is a fucking cult. I am not defined by my presence in either one of these fucking movements. I'm not equating myself to Eric Blair, okay? But Orwell had a very similar journey. Kipling had a very similar journey. They are afraid, liberals are afraid of having to admit that, wow, equality is a false god. Wow, there are differences in groups of people. Because they're afraid of what that carries. Why are they afraid of what that carries? That I blame on the hardcore conservatives. What? Where are you going with this? Hear me out. Being able to acknowledge that there are biological differences between women and men doesn't mean by extension that I hate women because I am a man. Being able to admit that there are, ready? Take a deep breath, guys, because I'm about to take you out of your comfort zone here. All of you. Being able to admit that there are genetic differences between races of people does not mean that you hate all of those other races at the expense of yourself. Do you understand that? I'll give you one. Ready for me to piss off the stiff arm salute crowd? Ready for me to piss off those guys? Because right now, a couple of them are sitting out there and they're salivating. Yeah, man, tell us how we're all the best thing in the goddamn world. You know who's smarter than us? Sparky? Jews. Ashkenazi Jews. By any standard of intelligence measurement, they are the smartest group of people on the fucking planet. How's that supremacy argument working out for you there, Sparky? All right, okay. And for you guys on the other end, white privilege, this, that, and the other thing. I've got one word for you, and this is going to piss off the stiff arm salute crowd too. I got one fucking word, going to put an end to all this shit. You ready? Asian. They exceed white Northern Europeans by every standard of measure within the context of the American model. Higher intelligence, better on standardized testing, better at college admissions, until they called them white adjacent and started squeezing them out. Lower violent criminality, better family cohesion, more successful entrepreneurship. They make more money. They live in better places. They have tighter families. They exceed white Northern Europeans in the context of American society by every fucking standard of measure. Hey, Heinrich, back there in the corner, how's that stiff arm salute working out for you? I ain't white guilt. You guys know me better than that. The two dumbest arguments. The two dumbest arguments. Second dumbest argument in the world, supremacy. No matter who's making it. White supremacy, black supremacy, Jewish supremacy, God's chosen people, fuck, blah, blah, master race, yada, yada. Second dumbest argument in the world. The dumbest argument, equality. Equality exists nowhere in nature. And when you try to impose equality on an unequal set of circumstances, or God forbid, go one further than that, equity, you're trying to force outcomes. You guys familiar with the racehorse and the plow horse? Racehorse is a fast motherfucker, isn't he? No matter how you change the diet of the plow horse and how hard you train him, that plow horse is never going to run as fast as the racehorse. Never. So what's the only way to make them equal? It's the only way to make them equal. You got to cripple the fucking racehorse. That racehorse may be very, very strong, but no matter what you feed him, or how hard you train him, or what kind of loads you put on a harness, that racehorse is never going to be able to pull like a plow horse. So what's the only way to make them equal? Got to cripple the plow horse. Equality and equity are a race to the fucking bottom. How about we recognize and appreciate the differences between the plow horse and the racehorse and play to the strengths of each? I was waiting for it, Roman. I was waiting for it. Harrison Bergeron, handicapper general. I was waiting for it. But in any case, the forced equity of these bills has finally gotten to the point where even the most stalwart liberal who wants to believe these demonstrable falsehoods is having to say enough. Because no matter how committed you are to your ideology, you can look and you can see things with your own eyes. No matter how much they want you to ignore it, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears as their final, most essential command. All others accepted the lie that the party imposed. If all records told the same tale, the beauty of living in the internet age is all the records don't have to tell the same tale. And as long as we are unafraid to speak the truth, even if the truth makes people uncomfortable, even if the truth gets you labeled a racist and a sexist and a bigot and a this-phobe and a that-ist and what the fuck ever, if you know something to be true, you better have the balls to fucking speak it. I just showed you that I'm ready to step up. What are you holding? The bottom line on bullet point number 1 is this. Equity-based sentencing, equity-based justice system is dead. It's dead, and the very people who instituted it in the first place are the ones who killed it. because it is not something that ever would have evolved on its own. It had to be forced upon us through Soros-backed DAs and through hardcore leftist politicians and through selling out to the worst of the worst fucking elements of our fucking population. Because what person isn't going to vote for a lack of accountability? You understand that? They bypassed all of the necessary safeguards, but at the end of the day, good people have had enough. Why? Because they understand that it doesn't mean what it actually professes to fucking mean. Here's a law that I could get behind. If you're serious about this, that no one is going to be detained for second-degree murder, that no one across the board is going to be detained for aggravated battery. If you mean that, that's actually something I could get behind. What the fuck are you talking about? Hear me out. I live in the middle of the Tweaker Dome, boys and girls. Right here in the Spoke. Fucking Spokane, Washington. If I call the cops right now and I got a guy fucking pulling, if I got a guy with bolt cutters pulling stretches of chain link fencing off of my fucking fence posts, smashing in my fucking windshield with a sledgehammer, it'll be 2 hours before a cop even fucking shows up. If they show up at all, they'll come, they'll take a report, and they'll fucking go. But if I intervene and I take that fucking maggot and I stove in his head with a fucking brick, bet your ass will have 6 units here in no time. And who are they going to be arresting? So all you equity-based folk, if you're serious about leveling the playing field and you really, really, really want to sell this to folks like me, show me that you mean it across the board. Show me that you live up to this potential of the purge. You don't mean it. What you mean is we won't prosecute these people, but the law still applies to you. If you really want the good people to be on board with this law, there's a way you can win them over. Show them that it applies to them too, because I promise you, there are tens of thousands of people just like me. Hell, fucking couple dozen of them watching this fucking program as I speak, that salivate, that masturbate to the thought of having it really be open season like that. If you really meant non-detainable for everybody, you wouldn't hear a peep out of me. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Send me an ambulance for the 6 fucking tweakers that I just beat within inches of their life with all kinds of farming implements. Send a mop and a bucket for the one arm that I severed. Oh yeah, I'll sign that piece of paper. Yeah, I'll show up in court. Whatever. Yeah, I'll show up. Yeah, let me just sign that. But I'm free on a PR bond? Okay. If you mean it across the board, then mean it across the board and you'll win us. But we see for what it is. And the good people have had enough. Sooner or later you keep pushing the limit with those folks. And no amount of criminal anything is going to be a deterrent to them doing what needs to be done. Why? Because you left them with no other option. I didn't mean to get this far off, deep into it. But it does provide a good segue into pattern recognition. You guys familiar with the Stanford-Binet IQ test? It's a standard level. Mental age versus chronological age. Benchmark is 100. That's average, right down the middle. 30 points on one side, 70, that's retarded. 30 points on the other side, 130. It's genius. Kurzweil in 2012, pattern recognition, according to IQ test designers, is a key determinant of a person's potential to think logically, verbally, numerically, and spatially. Compared to all mental abilities, pattern recognition is said to have the highest correlation with the so-called general intelligence factor. Ponder that. That means that being able to recognize, well, what is the key about making people believe the lie? They need to make people deny the what? The evidence of their own eyes and ears. Some people aren't capable of pattern recognition. We call them grazers. They obey. The glowing box tells them what pattern they're supposed to see, and they spout like they can see that pattern. If tomorrow the glowing box tells them that the pattern they're supposed to see is exactly in opposition to what they were supposed to see yesterday, they will profess to the high heavens that they see that pattern as well. They'll rage with righteous fury behind the official narrative. People who are capable of legit pattern recognition. That is a measure of intelligence. Maybe they don't have the vocabulary to properly articulate it. Not every tattooed, shaved head thug is the capable wordsmith that I have become in my day. But they recognize the patterns. Up until now, they've been labeled conspiracy theorists. Ooh, careful. Conspiracy theorists. Oh, yeah. Or maybe they're just a person who is capable of pattern recognition. Did that occur to you? Remember when we went over Occam's razor a couple of weeks ago? Yeah. Now again, because we quoted Mencken in the opener, and Mencken was the guy that said, "Hey, for every problem, there's a solution that is simple, obvious, and wrong." Okay, since we did open with Mencken, it's only fair to point that out. But you remember when I went over Occam's razor, that all of the things being equal, it is the one that requires the least speculation that is generally the correct assumption. What determines that? Pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is the result of what? Personal experience. Personal experience is what? Subjective. Ooh, there's the rub. So everybody's experience is going to color that perception. And everybody's experience is going to color how they exercise pattern recognition, if at all. That's a fair assessment, is it not? Okay? But when we are down to the simplest of observations, when pointing out the obvious results in a fuming and angry backlash from anyone, stands to reason that that person's motivations may be a little suspect, does it not? You guys know where the word conspiracy theory, you know where the term originated? Because immediately after 22 November 1963, even back then in the days before the internet, even back then in the days before cable television, when really it was just 3 major TV networks and whatever radio stations you could find, people were capable of pattern recognition. And they realized that the official narrative that they were being sold by the United States government about the death of their beloved president, for right or for wrong, their beloved president, things were adding up. The CIA coined the term conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theorist. They coined it specifically to play with the language and discredit people who disputed the official account, disputed the findings of the Warren Commission. It's evolved since then, and now it has come to mean anyone, anywhere, who has any thoughts of their own outside the official narrative, anyone who is capable of pattern recognition. I wish I had downloaded that Jon Stewart rant when he went on Colbert. Yeah, always steps too far. When Jon Stewart went on Colbert, I thought that was just absolutely brilliant. It was just like the analogy that he had. There's been an outbreak of chocolatey goodness in Hershey, Pennsylvania. What could have happened? A steam shovel mated with a cocoa bean? Or maybe it's the fucking chocolate factory. Oh, that shit will never not be funny to me. Absolutely hysterical. And watching Colbert try to be a shill for the establishment and accuse him of working for Ron Johnson and every other fucking thing. Grazer's gonna graze, shill's gonna shill. I get it. But again, pattern recognition, man. When we know that there's this lab just outside of Wuhan, China, and that's where it's fucking, okay. When we can see that countries that didn't lock down are having better outcomes than countries that did, but you're so committed to the fucking narrative that we couldn't do it. When we see that people don't know how to wear masks properly and that it wouldn't matter anyway unless it's an N95, you point that out. No, can't. When we see when we see that ivermectin is being used, and there are a number of studies that are saying, and at the very least, it hasn't killed anyone. And there are actually a number of studies that said that this program, we make these observations, and then we see that the news programs that scream so loudly about what idiots we are, these people just recommending that you use a horse paste like ivermectin. And now a word from our sponsor, Rachel Maddow, brought to you tonight by Pfizer. Come on! This is just basic fucking pattern recognition, is it not? Is that not just pattern recognition? No PhD required. Was there? Did anybody require a PhD to be able to look and say 2 and 2 make 4? Remember Orwell's importance. Freedom is the ability to say 2 and 2 make 4. And to not be talked off of that. Pattern recognition. Basic semblance of intelligence. So I submit to you that when you are asking, and in fact demanding, under penalty of law in many cases, that people ignore the basic ability for pattern recognition, you are in fact, by definition, mandating stupidity. And if not mandating stupidity, at the very least mandating compliance, which of course is the whole point. You guys tracking? You feel me there, Sparky? With it? Pattern recognition. Kurzweil says, and again, I'm quoting here, compared to all mental abilities, pattern recognition is said to have the highest correlation with the so-called general intelligence factor. So when I Google pattern recognition and conspiracy theory, we get a parade of intellectual gymnastics. Connecting the dots, illusory pattern perception predicts belief. Illusory pattern perception. Okay. Why conspiracy theorists are more likely to see patterns in things, in random data, That's, again, working with regard to fact checks. We're just stringing together things at random. Random. What is random about a tenfold increase in all causes deaths since late 2020, early 2021? What is random about that? And they don't have a problem with pattern recognition as long as you are recognizing a pattern that is pre-approved for the narrative, pre-approved by the regime. If you say, hey, I see a pattern here, and it happens to coincide with when all these people started taking the fucking vaccine, and now you got shitloads of fucking heart problems and myocarditis among otherwise healthy high school fucking athletes, pattern recognition bad. But they don't really have a problem when they're pushing that you recognize a pattern of global warming being responsible for all of it. Right. Right. Global warming. Eggs. And you call me a conspiracy theorist. I'll go you one better since we're doing searches. Pattern recognition and racism. This is how much the narrative depends on you ignoring basic pattern recognition. Inc. magazine. Pattern recognition, and I quote, is another name for racism and sexism. When venture capitalists talk about pattern recognition, they are legalizing and legitimizing discrimination. National Institutes of Health, the effect of implicit racial bias on recognition of other race faces. Okay. What was it they were saying about us conspiracy theorists stringing together random things to see patterns where none exist? But when the FBI uniform crime statistics say that a particular demographic is 13% of the population committing 51% or better of the fucking crimes, that's not random data. That's pattern recognition, and there's nothing hateful or racist about that. If you take it one step further and say, that's why we need to lock them all up in cities and keep them, we got to beat them down and take them back to the days of Jim Crow, that's racist, and you're an asshole. Locking your doors when you drive through a predominantly black neighborhood, that's not racist. That's safest. Why? Because you are capable of basic pattern recognition. When I say that is a bad part of town, in most urban areas, we know who lives there, don't we? Oh, so I must be racist. Okay. Here in Spokane, Hilliard is a bad part of town. Lower South Hill, bad part of town. Felony Flats on the other side of Monroe, bad part of town. Who lives there? It's Spokane. Did you miss the thing from earlier, Sparky? 9 out of every 10 people here are fucking white. So when I'm talking about Lower South Hill being a shithole neighborhood, and I'm talking about Hilliard being a dodgy neighborhood, and I'm talking about Felony Flats being a fucked up tweaker dome, am I being racist, or am I just exercising basic pattern recognition? Don't assign what you wish to impugn and disparage me with to your either incapability or unwillingness to engage in basic pattern recognition. You with me? And do not, under any circumstances, try to assert, right, reacting without analysis. Do not attempt to assert that speaking a demonstrable fact indicates anything about my motivations or who I am as a person, but the fact that I'm pretty fond of speaking facts. I think over the course of the last 20 minutes, I've managed to piss off just about everyone. Because I continue to spit demonstrable fucking facts. Hey, Heinrich, Jews are smarter than you. Hey, Hillbilly, the Asian guy that runs that fucking store, lives in a better home than you do and makes more fucking money. Probably has a happier family life. Hey, you, in the Bloody Nickel or Denver Harbor. Right, Roger? I don't know, Roger. Denver Harbor's been kind of gentrified now. I don't know. Your people are killing each other and everyone else at a higher rate than anyone else on the planet. No, sorry, specificity. At a higher rate than any other demographic in the United States. That doesn't mean I hate you. That means I can look at what's going on and engage in basic pattern recognition. But again, anyone who would try to deter you from that basic pattern recognition is trying to deter you from a basic semblance of intelligence. They are, by all definition and for all intents and purposes, enforcing a lie, compelling you to lie. What did Orwell have to say about that? Come on, kids, we all know. Take it back to the quote. What do you have to say about it? The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. What is the evidence of your eyes and ears but pattern recognition? When we recognize a pattern of wars for empire all over the fucking world that the United States is fucking engaged in ever since World War II, and we look at every single one of them is sold to us how we are defending democracy, and then we look at at this fucking coked up clown shoe that has gotten 150 billion of our money, twice Russia's entire defense budget we have given to this man now, and we haven't even gotten a stalemate on the battlefield. Maybe there's a pattern to recognize here, like stage management. Maybe when you look and realize that this guy's government fired a prosecutor who was looking into Joe Biden's son's company, you see a pattern emerge. Is that a conspiracy theory? No, it's basic pattern recognition and intelligence. Anyone discouraging pattern recognition is actively discouraging intelligence. They are, in fact, by definition and for all intents and purposes, trying to compel you to lie. Freedom is what? Freedom is what, said Orwell. Read your 1984. Freedom is what? Freedom is the ability to say that 2 plus 2 make 4. Freedom is the ability to say that when this man gets $150 billion of our tax money, which is twice Russia's entire defense budget for an entire fucking year, and has nothing to show for it, not even a stalemate on the battlefield, that maybe, just maybe, things aren't as they seem. Does that mean I have no sympathy for the Ukrainian people? No. It just means that I'm capable of basic pattern recognition. When they hide behind emotional arguments, that's virtually a guarantee that they are lying to you and attempting to enforce and compel a lie. When I make the statistical observation that African Americans are 13% of the United States population but commit over 51% of the crimes, what do they immediately hide behind? Oh, well, I guess that makes you a racist. Did I say that? That's them projecting, which means that they have something to hide. When I point out the obvious, particularly with regard to the Wuhan lab, that our basic pattern recognition has been 100% correct across the board without exception. Right now, I know at least one person's out there that's going to bristle at a couple of these things, but sorry, it's fucking facts. Vaccines never prevented contraction or transmission. Vaccines do have measurable side effects. Masks have never been proven effective. Never. Lockdowns have been proven absolutely ineffective and counterproductive on all fronts. Asymptomatic transmission was always a fucking lie for all intents and purposes, with notable exceptions. Us idiots, us conspiracy theorists have been right across the board. Why? Because we're geniuses? Why? Because we have secret conspiracy theorist get-togethers where we all sit around and delve into college-level texts on epidemiology and virology, and we secretly are possessors of all this hidden occult knowledge, that we secretly deserve to have all those diplomas on our wall, and we know so much better than all of these people that spend all the time being properly indoctrinated? No, because we are capable of basic pattern recognition. And here's the kicker. The ones that do have the diplomas on the wall, the ones that do have the years of indoctrination, are just as capable of pattern recognition. They're just as capable. They've proven that by demonstrating that they can read, remember, regurgitate. They have proven that by writing peer-reviewed papers that indicate all sorts of insight. They're capable of that same pattern recognition. In fact, by all measures, they should be better at it than we are. So what's the difference? Difference is twofold. Number one, we, being the smelly, deplorable Walmart shoppers, have nothing to lose by saying and speaking clearly about what we know, about the patterns that we recognize. Hey, I see that 2, when you put it together with 2, seems to equal 4. We have nothing to gain. The people who should know better are just as capable, and probably more so, of that pattern recognition. But to speak what they know to be the truth would be professional suicide. They have everything to lose by speaking the truth. And if they just want to maintain even keel, all they have to do is perpetuate what they know in their hearts to be a lie. They might not even know it here anymore. Maybe it's sunk in to the point where they're so used to parroting it. As I was saying before about liberals, because to confess that it is a fucking lie means to have to re-examine everything that they think about the world. But that leads us to factor number 2, the fear. They see the patterns the same way as we do. but they are afraid. They could be afraid for any number of reasons. At the very least, they're afraid that they're going to have to re-examine their own core beliefs. They're going to have to re-examine the possibility that everything they've ever thought and everything they allegedly know is wrong. Ha! I love you, Kim. I love you. They're going to have to re-examine the possibility that everything that they've ever told themselves, every bit of indoctrination that they've ever suffered at the hands of their professors, could be 100% wrong. But most of all, a very superficial level fear. If I say this, that'll make me not a heretic, but an apostate. What did we say? Religion is a conceited effort to deny the most obvious realities. And what has the mainstream narrative and the propaganda machine and the culture, period, become but a religion? If I speak this, even though I see it and I know it and I'm convicted in my heart that it is the truth, if I speak it, my family will turn their back on me. The people that I work with will question they'll question whether I might be a Trump voter. Or, quite realistically, for the people in the medical field, doctors who you count on to advance your career may start looking at you in a different way. Why? Because, again, you're not a heretic at that point. I'm the heretic. I'm the heretic. I looked at that religion from the word go and I went, dude, your emperor's naked, you're full of shit, and I don't fucking believe you. Go fuck yourself. I am the heretic. I am the infidel. You, if you're in the medical profession, are far worse. You are an apostate. You were one of the faithful, but you have broken from the faith. You were an apostle for your doctrine, and now you are a lowly infidel, and you broke with us on your own free will. How dare you? Look at other fundamentalist religions. Let's take a look at Islam. Look at the proscribed punishment in the Quran for heretics and infidels versus apostates. Today, in the modern world, there are Muslim nations that execute by beheading people for apostasy. As a matter of state policy, apostasy can be punished by beheading. They don't even do that for fucking heretics. That's preserved specifically for apostates and cocksuckers. Oh my God, did you just use cocksuckers in a disparaging way? What a hateful fucking right. I'm hateful for using the word cocksucker, but you'll defend a fucking religion that chops off their heads. You see how this all gets convoluted, Sparky? Which, by the way, I in no way intend to disparage cocksuckers. No, sirree, Bob. They perform a very valuable and crucial service to the world. Fuck. Sorry, little trip down tangent street there. Okay. Pattern recognition, boys and girls. Pattern recognition. Google's going to tell you that pattern recognition makes you a conspiracy theorist. The other Google search says that pattern recognition makes you a racist. Pattern recognition, a dialogue on racism in fan communities. Turns out algorithms are racist, according to the New Republic. Rooting out racism in AI systems, there's no time to lose. AI systems? How does artificial intelligence work again? That's as pure as it gets when you say follow the data, isn't it? Why? Because the data is just data. And AI systems are built to do what? Recognize patterns. Pattern recognition is not something that we ever need to be afraid of. Pattern recognition is not something that we should ever tolerate being made to feel ashamed about. Pattern recognition, as Kurzweil stated, is the earliest and best indicator of intelligence, and we ignore and abandon that at our own fucking peril. They are afraid of people who are capable of pattern recognition. And what are the two most disparaging things they have to say about us? We are conspiracy theorists and we are racists. And then they equate our pattern recognition, our conspiracy theory. Do a quick Google search on conspiracy theorists and racism. Conspiracy theorists are just like racists, and everybody knows that to be a racist, that's the most horrible thing in the world that you could ever be. So they equate pattern recognition with conspiracy theory and racism. And I'm going to tell you something, they're correct. This was hard for me to come to grips with, but I have to admit that, yes, conspiracy theory is absolutely like racism. Conspiracy theory and racism are the same. Exactly the same. 100%. Bart, how can you say that? Because they are both meaningless terms that are used to back people off and frighten people, discourage them from the basic semblance of intelligence and pattern recognition. But most of all, they are exactly the same in the sense that both are terms that have been overused to the point of complete absence of meaning. And beyond that, they have been overused to the point where they can mean anything, so therefore they mean nothing. And in this day and age, when the pattern recognition of conspiracy theorists has become a measure of what everyone is going to know 2 weeks from now, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and a CNN headline? About 3 weeks. I submit to you that by associating pattern recognition with conspiracy theory and racism, and by associating the term conspiracy theory with the word racist, you are actually lending credence. All of you people, what do you mean you people? All of the people, college educated white liberals whose professed goal is the elimination of fucking racism, you are actually giving credence. You are actually giving credence to the very thing that you profess to want to destroy. Why? Because you have overused the term to the point where it means nothing. And now that you are treating the term conspiracy theorist the same fucking way, you are equating what should be thought of as a very, very negative thing with simple pattern recognition. Which, of course, is the truth, but that's not exactly where you were taking it, is it, Sparky? To keep you from recognizing the pattern, they will continue to play Three Card Monty. You guys are familiar with Three Card Monty, right? You got a pair of black cards and a red card, usually a queen. Up, follow the queen, follow the queen, follow the queen. It's a hustle. But it's a sleight of hand thing. It's a shuck and jive thing. It's a shuffle thing. It's a distraction thing. And to prevent that pattern recognition, they're going to keep playing three-card Monty in the mainstream media. What happened just over the course of this week? Here's a headline for you. Anonymous Chinese donations to the University of Pennsylvania, right there where Biden has his research center. But don't look at that. Follow the fucking Red Queen. New data links pandemic's origins to raccoon dogs at the Wuhan market. We somehow missed that between turtles and the pangolins, and the fact that just about every federal department just came out a week earlier and said that it was a lab leak origin. But we're just going to go follow the Red Queen. Follow the Red Queen. We're just going to keep playing three-card Monty. Don't worry about it. Well, USA to UBS to purchase Credit Suisse amid fallout for U.S. bank collapses. 48 hours to payroll. 200,000 to go. The diary of a bank failure. Lloyd Blank fine on the safety of money. Follow the Red Queen. Follow the Red Queen. Follow the Red Queen. Follow the Red Queen. Trump may be about to be indicted. There's your Red Queen. Boom. Focus on that. Keep playing three-card Monty, and it's all a distraction. Where do you go to get informed? Well, guess what? Just like I said, pattern recognition and critical thought is going to be up to you now. That's the glory of living in this day and age. You can't trust you never could. You never could trust a fucking thing that came from a mainstream media narrative. But now, the ability to keep yourself thoroughly and completely and accurately informed exists at the same time that the evidence that the mainstream narrative can't be trusted is all coming to fruition. Where do you go? They keep playing three-card Monty. Where do you go? I'll tell you where I go. I go to Substack. Substack does not sponsor this program. Let me just say that from the outset. Why? Because I'm fucking nobody. Substack doesn't sponsor this. But I give shout outs to the things that I use and the things that make sense to me. I want you guys to go right now to substack.com. I can tell you who I follow. You're going to have to pay a little bit of money. It's worth it. You pay for your internet streaming, don't you? You pay for, some of you idiots are still out there paying for cable television, aren't you? For satellite television. You want full, thorough, accurate information. You want to be able to decide for yourself instead of being spoon-fed fucking talking points from Tucker Carlson or that fucking Maddow guy. Substack. It's the new model. And there are other services like it. Substack's just the best known. It's got the top talent out there right now. Who do I follow on Substack? I follow Matt Taibbi. Have for a long time. Glenn Greenwald. Alex Berenson. Barry Weiss. Ann Coulter, because my Annie. Yes, I got a thing for Ann Coulter, and I want to apologize for it. Dude, it's a dude. I don't care, man. Ann Coulter has a penis. I'm still hitting it. I don't care. I don't care. It's that long hair and that fucking hateful mouth. Ugh. Party hats. Well, that kind of went sideways, didn't it? Substack. You pick. And it's not just conservative or conservative-leaning people that publish on Substack. There just happen to be a fuck ton of conservative and libertarian-leaning journalists that publish on Substack because the mainstream media won't have them. Why? Because they are heretics, because they are apostates. You want to be informed, you got to work for it now. People that are in the know always knew that they had to work for it. But now it's become more evident than ever, and it's become more important than ever. AI isn't entirely without bias. Well, yeah, no, ChatGPT, no, you're right, Joey. It's proven that AI isn't without bias, but look where the bias originated, right? This is the thing. And in fact, Joey, I'm glad that you said that because it essentially makes the point. We, as humans, are capable of pattern recognition. And if we weren't colored by fear or previous influence or any of these other things, we would be able to look at 2 plus 2 and say that makes 4, right? But because you have this overwhelming cultural pressure that 2 plus 2 doesn't necessarily mean 4. Have you thought about who's actually doing the addition, or who's on the receiving end, or who's putting the plus sign, right? That's how our pattern recognition gets colored. And I submit to you, Joey, that while your point is 100% valid, look where that bias is coming from. Look who's doing the programming on that AI. If it were purely across the board pattern recognition, right, then it would just recognize the pattern and it would generate. But what they found early on, not just with Bing, but in ChatGPT, with some of the other stuff, is what they found was these AI were doing what they're supposed to do, recognizing patterns. And when they recognized the patterns, the outcome was, oh, wow, we noticed that this demographic has a higher crime rate. Oh, we noticed that this demographic exhibits this, right? And of course, that by a human standard, that can't be tolerated, right? So they program these things into the algorithm, which is why you go to ChatGPT and say, tell me why, tell me the 10 best things about Martin Luther King, and it'll rattle off, whatever fucking liberal drivel, communist nonsense. And then you say, tell me the 10 worst things about Martin Luther King. Oh, I can't even comment on that. I'm not allowed to comment on that because that would be hateful. And yeah, so no, yes, there is bias in the AI, but that's much like pattern recognition among humans. That's programmed in by cultural expectations. So yes, you're right. I think everyone past 40 has done that. Mike, what is that? Oh, a little day snooze. Hey, Mike, Stone, I'm glad you're here, buddy. I picked up that Infinite Edge bow. I'll get in touch with you after the program. But yeah, I picked up that Infinite Edge, man, and so it hasn't arrived yet. I think it arrives tomorrow, and I'm going to be going to pick it up. So that'll be cool. Anyway, parents, teachers, friends, all build blinders we all have to try to overcome. Absolutely, Joey. So we are in lockstep on that. One thing that I want to go into, just real quick, is the law of unintended consequences. This is just one more bullet point I wanted to cover before I closed. You remember, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, where we got into, is the nation under attack? Well, if the nation were under attack, or if it were being sabotaged from within, and of course that's speculation, but if it were, how would it look any different from what's going on, right? Do you remember the long diatribe that I went on? If we're, it was kind of like my homage to Paul Harvey and, the devil trying to convince everybody that he didn't exist. How would it look any different if we knew that we had a compromised president who was deliberately trying to undermine, well, first of all, a president who was actually in control? Again, when you hear me say Biden, understand that unless I say that motherfucker Biden, right? Unless I say that, I'm not actually talking about Joe Biden. I'm talking about the regime, because we all know he doesn't know what day it is, what planet he's on. If he were your grandfather, you'd take his fucking car keys. So there's no fucking way they trust him with the nuclear codes. Okay, I just want that understood before I go down this rabbit hole. How would it look any different? How would it look any different? You remember I went off on a tear about that. I posted something on my personal page earlier this week. I was looking back, and it was a thing about some of the nastiest insurgent booby traps that come out of the Vietnam War. And I posted that to my personal page. And the header that I put on it was, this is what peasant farmers were able to do to the most powerful military machine on the planet. You want to talk about history coming full circle? How did we come into being? How is the U.S. even here? Because we were a bunch of ragtag peasant fucking farmers fighting the most powerful military machine on the planet, and we fucking won. In Vietnam, they handed it right back to us. Afghanistan, they handed it right back to us. We couldn't hold down Vietnam. We could barely hold down outside the green zone in fucking Iraq. We can't hold down Kandahar fucking province, and you think you're going to hold Texas and Montana? The fuck out of here. Then I got to thinking about it. A couple of things about oversights and unintended consequences. There's a couple of things I looked into it, man. For fiscal year 2024, Army readiness is going to require 28.8 billion just for Army readiness. Navy readiness is going to require 52.8. They are changing the Army tape test to measure body fat. What is the other one? Here we go. Biden's budget keeps America safe. Go fuck yourself. Poland commits MiG-29 fleet to Ukrainian Air Force. Nah. That's a different war we're talking about there, Sparky. China's ready to go to war with the U.S. over Taiwan. Well, really isn't going to matter because we've committed everything to Ukraine. Just a few things worth looking at. Again, how would it look any different if this were all by design? Military readiness is at its lowest point in decades. And I mean across the board. I mean maintenance to our equipment. I mean our personnel, the number of personnel that we have, the quality of the personnel that we have, unit cohesion, morale, structure, logistics, deployment, everything. And again, here we go with that pattern recognition shit again. Somebody's going to want to hide behind a moat. Oh, so now you're bad-mouthing soldiers. Never in a million years, fucker. Say that to my face. Say that to my face and I'll go to the wall with your ass. You will never fucking on your life hear me badmouth the boots on the fucking ground. And you ever make such an accusation, I hope you got a chaser for those front teeth, motherfucker, because they're heading right back down your gullet. You understand me? Who are you arguing with? Shut up, Kevin. Okay. Here's the point. The military as a structure, I got respect for the boots on the ground, but the military as a structure, the United States, formerly the United States war machine, is a fucking shit show right now. It's a fucking shit show. And again, what was the lecture that we went into a week ago? How would this look any different if it were by design? Google search, military recruitment down. The Army fell about 15,000 soldiers, or 25% short of its 60,000 recruitment goal last year, when all the branches struggled to meet recruiting goals. And of course, the very first thing that Google comes up with is, don't blame wokeness for Army recruitment troubles. Really? Different rabbit hole, and we will go down that another time. But all the sons and daughters of the South that used to line fucking up 10 deep to stack up for the war machine, they don't want any part of it now. Why? Because they don't want any, because you don't want any part of them. But again, by design, 15,000 soldiers short. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, military, Google search. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are necessities in the U.S. military. 41% of the military identifies members of the minority group, and that number will grow larger. So we need a whole new fucking bureaucracy to incorporate DEI. Which is odd, because I kind of had this thing where the Army was supposed to fucking fight wars and shit. Trans inclusion in the fucking military, you're out of your goddamn mind. Is that being hateful? No. Again, pattern recognition. If there were any other demographic on the face of the fucking planet where 52% or better would try to kill themselves over the course of a fucking lifetime, would they be allowed to serve in the United States military? Probably fucking not. Does this mean that there are no such thing as good trans soldiers that kick ass and take names and are natural born killers? That is not what I fucking said. But you know what? That's a whole different. We're not even going to go down that. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do you really think that the Chinese are working on that right now? Or are they teaching their soldiers how to fight fucking wars? Do you think they're having a problem? No, they don't have to worry about recruitment goals. Why? Because they can compel. And they will if they have to. Why? Because the Chinese are in it for the long term. They're in it to fucking win. Would it look any different if this were all by design? That's what I'm basically fucking getting at. But let's go a little bit deeper. The U.S. Army, this according to the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army could face years of ammunition shortages because of, are you ready for this? Supplies provided to Ukraine unless efforts are made to increase manufacturing. CNN.com, Ukraine is burning through ammunition faster than the U.S. and NATO can produce it. 150 billion we sent to them. Haven't even gotten a stalemate on the battlefield, and now we are running into ammunition shortages because of what we send to them. Our strategic oil reserves are at the lowest level, but beyond all of that. So you're looking at ammunition shortages, you're looking at misguided fucking ideology instead of learning how to fight fucking wars. But how about this? Most U.S. men don't physically qualify for military. Even more young Americans are unfit to serve, a new study finds. Military.com, new study from the Pentagon. Get that out of here. Okay, here we go. New study from the Pentagon shows that 77% of young Americans would not qualify for military service without a waiver. That's even if they brought back the fucking draft. Are you tracking? 77% of young Americans would not qualify for military service without a waiver due to being overweight, using drugs, or having mental and physical health problems. That's a 6% increase from 2017. The most prevalent disqualification rates are overweight, 11%, drug and alcohol abuse, 8%, medical physical health, 7%. Most youth, 44%, were disqualified for multiple reasons. This is what we are cultivating. Now, how would this look any different if it was by design? Let's just open our brains real big and say that it is. Getting back to my original post on the insurgencies, Vietnam and Afghanistan, and how fucking terrible the U.S. military is at fighting insurgencies. When I hear people say what I believe is the dumbest gun control argument in existence, that, that you can't fight the U.S. military with just AR-15s, and I mention, Vietnam, Afghanistan. Yeah, but that's different. Yes, it is. It certainly is different. I will concede that it is different. Here's why. Number one, there are more small arms in circulation here in the United States than there are in Vietnam or Afghanistan. But here's where the real difference is. In Vietnam and in Afghanistan, there wasn't the very, very real possibility that better than half the military would jump ship and join the fucking insurgency. You turn the American military loose against the American people, you're going to see just that. Joey, I know we have our disagreements on that, but it's fact. Fucking fact. Better than half the military will jump ship. The cops will close ranks and back to government. The military will jump fucking ship. Now, why? Again, if it were by design, They were trying to weaken the United States military to leave us ripe for an invasion by a foreign power, say a communist adversary to whom the family of our current leader is 100% economically compromised. Let's just say that it was by design. And they were deliberately trying to soften up the United States military. Here is the unexpected consequence, and here is why this actually winds up in our favor going forward. Follow me? Stay with me. Because sooner or later, the Red Dawn scenario not going to happen, but if you have supply lines here, say if the Chinese had hypothetically been buying shitloads of farmland for decades and establishing factories here to produce their products, which would go to their troops, if such a thing ever happened. I know, silly, but if in fact it were by design, and they were specifically trying to soften us, overcommit us in Europe, leaving us wide open for an attack by the Chinese. Two things. If the regime were to switch, admit its alliance, and push for a globalist agenda, immediately you have what? An insurgency. The American people standing as they always have, defiant in the face of fucking tyranny. As I just said, you would be looking at the prospect of better than half of the United States military who would be sent to put down that insurgency to our globalist Chinese masters. Half the military would jump ship and join the insurgency. And the ones that would jump ship would be the best, the brightest among us who are barely hanging on now because of what this military has become. So if it is by design, then the greatest unintended consequence to come out of this entire process is that you have made your attack dogs useless against an uprising of U.S. citizens, and the ones who are hanging on long enough that would jump ship and close ranks with the insurgency, taking their gear, their equipment, their training, and their experience with them. Those are the ones that we would want by our sides in a fight anyway. So congratulations. It's all speculation, but if it is by design, congratulations. You have accidentally done the absolute ideal thing for regimentation that ever could have happened to the insurgency should it come. Am I being crazy? You tell me, man. But I'm going to refer you to two things. Remember what Martin Geddes had to say. To denigrate something as a conspiracy theory without having fully investigated the data is an act of cowardice. What do we know about pattern recognition? You cause an affront to those who offer the possibility that harm is being done to innocent people just to avoid confrontation with your own fears of it being true. What did I say about pattern recognition and why people won't acknowledge it? They're avoiding confrontations with their own fears of it being true. But if it is true, as you've heard me say before, we are in a perpetual race between enlightenment and catastrophe. It may very well take catastrophe to bring us to enlightenment. If it is to be, though may it come quickly. Amen. Do not be gaslit. Do not be disparaged. Do not be discouraged. Do not let your heart be troubled, people. I believe in my heart of hearts we go forward. I believe in my heart of hearts now that there is still time to turn the tide. But if I am wrong, in my heart of hearts, I believe that we win. And if I am wrong, we at least go out like Boudica, to where when the battle's over and there's a layer of cinders a meter thick for as far as the eye can see, the survivors, God's willing and our strength hold, the survivors will talk about the fight that we went out on for 1,000 fucking years. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Appreciate you guys being here. Little disjointed, little off track, little meandering today, but you guys are patient. Appreciate you helping me getting through it. We got a ton of good things happening, people. Don't. Like Mike's always like Mike says, man, live the three, dude. Live the three. Don't let that black pill get to you. They'll try to dehumanize you, man. I'm outraged from time to time. But I'm not discouraged. I'm not. Fundamentally, people are suckers for the truth, and the truth is winning. There is an awakening going on, and I don't want to get scriptural on you, man, but let's call it what it is. There is an awakening going on right now in this country. Not just in this country, but in the entire West. Look what's happening in Europe, man. These leaders that, of course, you know, are getting excoriated and labeled right-wing extremists and the inheritors of fascism, like they're doing with Meloni in Italy. Man, it's all coming to fruition, and they have the support of the public. You look at a man, say what you want about that orange motherfucker, but that guy just put out a track on iTunes that passed everybody on iTunes, and it's just him reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and 100 G6 prisoners recorded on a prison phone. Now, you don't have to think that that's a good thing. You don't have to, you don't have to celebrate any of that. But you better recognize that there is an awakening going on in America and in the West. Just like I said through this entire thing, good people have had enough. Good people will no longer be told that they have to say 2 + 2 = 5 or you're evil. Say 2 + 2 = 5 or you're a bigot. Say 2 + 2 = 5 or you're a fucking racist or a this phobe or a that-ist. People are looking, they're going, no, man, 2 + 2 = 4, and I don't give a fuck what you think about it. Now look, even if you're on the wrong side of that fucking debate, whatever side of it you're on, you would better recognize what the fuck is going on right now around you. Slouching toward Bethlehem, baby. The ever-widening gear, and sooner or later, the ends become so polarized that the center cannot hold. And when the center fucking snaps, where are you gonna fall? Or are you gonna be ready to fucking stand? You better have it in your heart right now, son. You better start getting your head around that prospect right now, because nothing can stop the tide at this point. Nothing can stop the tide. Best case scenario, we've hit the tipping point, that pendulum backlashes, and we fucking iron this shit out. Worst case scenario, knuckles up, bitches. But you better be ready to roll either fucking way. Understand that shit. Know that in your fucking heart, and go forward with that fucking knowledge and that wisdom. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Appreciate you guys being here, man. Thanks. I'm going to pass around a digital collection plate. You guys want to throw me a little coin? If there's anything I fucking, threw out there that opened your worldview a little bit, broaden your horizons, change your perspective, whatever you want to throw me a little bit of coin, cool, man. I'll pass around that digital collection plate. I'm on PayPal. I'm on Cash App. I'm on Venmo. I'm on Zelle. I'm on all that good shit. You guys want to toss me a little something? That would be fantastic. I appreciate it regardless. You guys out there who are regular supporters, I really, really love y'all, man. Thank you for that, because you were the guys that make me reach deep down on days that I'm just not fucking feeling it and get my ass in gear, because I have a responsibility not just to myself, but to you. So thank you for holding me accountable and for keeping me to that fucking responsibility. I love y'all, man. Anyway, you guys want to throw me something cool? If you can't, I get it. It's a Biden economy. Reluctantly, we're still living in it for the moment. Here's what you can do. Tell somebody else. Next time you show up for the sermon, bring a friend. Post my shit to your fucking Facebook page. Whisper it to somebody at work by the water cooler that you know ain't gonna fucking narc you out in the Stasi. Tell them about it, man. Spread that gospel. All my sinner sisters, my OG prophets of doom, man, my reverence rangers out there. Get out there and spread that fucking gospel. But here's what you can do above and beyond anything else. Not just for me, but for yourselves, guys. Like Mike, man. My hashtag from Mike, man. I love that shit. Live the 3, baby. Live the 3. The signal to noise ratio is all fucked up. You got to be that signal that cuts through the noise. Get past the distractions. Get past the fucking depression. Get past all of that shit. Be the signal that cuts through the noise. They'll try to bury you with the darkness, man. Tell you there's nothing else to fucking look at but the darkness. Demoralize you, dehumanize you, emasculate you with the darkness. You've got to be that light that breaks through the fucking darkness. But above and beyond anything else, and this is the most important bit, man, we are talking the iron rule. Strength over weakness, man. You have got to be that strength in a world full of weakness. And I don't mean just here. This is important, but I don't mean just here. I mean here. I mean here. I mean here. Hold that fucking strength, because without the strength, you will not be able to fucking have the power to be that signal that breaks through the noise. Without the strength, you will not be able to carry that light through the darkness. So be that strength in a world full of weakness, man. Don't accept anything less from the people that are around you. Fucking love you guys, man. I love you guys. You guys are amazing. Appreciate y'all being here. I love you. Thank you for that. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll be back next Sunday, man. Appreciate you guys being here again, man. My reverence rangers, my prophets of doom, my sinner sisters. Fucking love y'all, man. Thank you so much for everything and for the support. I'll see you next Sunday, man. Stay strong. Do it. See you next Sunday, people. Peace.